So if you don't already know, Star Wars is the greatest movie of all time.
I don't know. I always thought Spider-Man 3 was the greatest work of cinema. Huh? Hey, critics liked it better than Suicide Squad. Huh? Oh, brother.
Anyway, if you aren't a magical piece of plastic, Star Wars is awesome. It has great characters, well, mostly great characters, that populate this galaxy and each serve an important role in the overall saga of good versus evil. Now, I'm sure that a lot of you are going to just automatically say, yeah, the original trilogy is great, but the prequel trilogy just sucks. And to that I'll say, fine. The prequel trilogy is by no means a perfect set of movies. But the fact that you don't like them doesn't mean that they are completely devoid of entertainment value for other people. So, yeah, objective claims, not possible with movies. But that's not the point. The point is that the prequel trilogy gives us vital information about the main character of Star Wars.
But Anakin was so whiny. Yeah, people come to see Star Wars for just one person, me.
Nope, you're wrong. The main character of the Star Wars saga is none other than Darth Sidious, also known as Palpatine. Well, Harley, I wouldn't say that's 100% true. But what I am going to try to do here is tell you why Star Wars is actually the story of Palpatine's rise to and fall from power, as well as his possible legacy. Before we go any further, I just want to make clear that we're only talking about the 7 live-action movies that are currently out. That's nothing against Clone Wars or any of the books or comics or games. It's just that they're not really integral to the story and they're more of a distraction than anything for this topic. So it all began a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away with a trade dispute on Naboo. Now wait, I know that sounds incredibly boring, but look past whiny little Anakin. Look past all of those political discussions. All of those things are what clouded the Jedi's vision. And when you look beyond that, we have one man. Now, he isn't a particularly young man, but Senator Palpatine, by and large at this point, looks like your average run-of-the-mill, ostentatious space politician. Now, we as the audience probably know that he's the Dark Lord of the Sith, but the other characters in the movie don't really know that yet. So right now, Palpatine is still very human, and his only real power is over those he comes into direct contact with. He has to talk to them. Queen Amidala? He has to talk to her in order to get her to call for a vote for a new Supreme Chancellor. The Trade Federation? He communicates directly with them. Yeah, Darth Maul's there, but Sidious is really the one directly controlling everything going on. Basically, his power over anything in the galaxy is only seen when we see him. He doesn't have this indirect control and influence over the galaxy at large. And now we fast forward to Attack of the Clones, where he is now the Supreme Chancellor of the Galactic Republic. At this point, Palpatine's power is a little more far-reaching. He doesn't have to directly communicate with people in order to get things done. We see this with the way he slowly orchestrates things. Like, he is supposedly the one who caused Master Sifo-Dyas to order a clone army for the Republic.
He also gets Jar Jar to get the Senate to give him more powers.
Right! And just look at how he interacts with those around him. Really, the only people he ever has one-on-one conversations with are Count Dooku, his current apprentice, and Anakin, the apprentice he wants to have at some point. And this shows just how much his connection to people is dwindling as he becomes this increasingly powerful, inhuman entity. I mean, by the time we get to Revenge of the Sith, he even loses the distinction between his Darth Sidious persona and that of Chancellor Palpatine, so that he is just this one ultimately powerful being. Basically, when Palpatine is reaching unlimited power, he is also losing his connection to everything that is human. And then we end the prequels with Palpatine overseeing the construction of the first Death Star. He is building a seat of incredible power that is specifically designed to make it so that he is not dependent upon other people to maintain that control. Which leads us to Star Wars, where we find that there is someone who is notably absent.
Yoda isn't in that one.
While that is all true, I meant that Emperor Palpatine isn't seen in this entire movie. I mean, sure, he's referred to, but the most we actually hear about him is that he's dissolved the Senate. But why would he do that, you ask? Because Star Wars represents the pinnacle of Palpatine's power and the climax of his story. At this point, his reach extends so far that we don't even need to see him in order to feel the impact that he has had on the entire galaxy. Of course, since Palpatine is at the height of his power at this point, that means that something has to tip it over. And in this case, that something was a farm boy from Tatooine blowing up his precious little Death Star. Now, this obviously shakes Palpatine a little bit. It's indicated that before the Death Star is destroyed, the rebellion isn't really viewed as much of a threat for the Empire. But after the Death Star's destruction, they're suddenly a little worried. I mean, wouldn't you find it a bit concerning if someone managed to destroy your weapon of mass destruction? But this is why in The Empire Strikes Back, the Empire is, well, striking back. Yes, Vader's searching for Luke because he senses something about him, but Palpatine is looking for Luke because he's a threat. You see, Episode 5 is the first time we actually get a glimpse of Palpatine in the original trilogy. As he's talking to Vader over the holophone, we see that he is suddenly needing to deal with something specifically. He actually has to do it himself. He can no longer rely on his unwavering power over the Force and Imperial government because it just isn't there anymore. That's why in Return of the Jedi, Palpatine actually goes to oversee the completion of the second Death Star. It isn't because he wants to be entertained and watch the rebellion fall. It's because he was scared. Remember that the first thing to start you down the path to the dark side is fear. Palpatine may think that he's the master of instilling fear in others, but at the end of the day, he's also extremely susceptible to his own fear. So when he realizes that the reach of his power is dwindling, he gets really scared. That's why he tries to reinvent his power by trying to lure Luke to the dark side so that he has some hope of maintaining that control. However, Palpatine is so focused at this point on keeping his power that he fails to use it wisely. So while he thinks he is showing this ultimate display of his power by electrocuting Luke and using the Death Star to hopefully destroy the rebellion, he's completely unaware of Darth Vader's shift from being his apprentice to once again being Anakin Skywalker. And this ultimately leads to Palpatine's demise. And so Palpatine falls down a bottomless pit and dies with his empire. Or so we thought. In The Force Awakens, we see that 30 years after his death and the apparent fall of the Empire, Palpatine's spirit still lives on through the First Order. Which, if the Galactic Empire is like the classical Roman Empire, then the First Order is like the Holy Roman Empire. Not really an empire, and not really galactic. Regardless, the First Order is trying to resurrect Palpatine's empire, and while Kylo Ren thinks that he's continuing Darth Vader's legacy, it doesn't seem like Supreme Leader Snoke has that same idea. Like Palpatine, Snoke appears to be this enigmatic being of incredible power. However, it appears as though he's still working on gaining that power, so he still has to micromanage certain things himself. Of course, we won't know more until Episode 8 comes out, but I think it would be really interesting if this whole trilogy is basically about stomping out the last remnants of Palpatine's spirit in the galaxy. But yeah, Palpatine isn't necessarily the character we like or the character we want to have win, but his story is the driving force behind the entire story of Star Wars. And so it really is an interesting thing to watch and see how he kind of fails to recognize that with great power comes great responsibility.
Yes.
And yeah, I always find it really interesting to look at stories from different characters' points of view, and Palpatine's has always been quite fascinating to me. So for my question of the day, are there any other works of fiction that you guys like where a less important character has a story that is actually subtly integral to the entire plot. Let me know in the comments section down below, and be seeing you!